Welcome back to the Coach Dave Academy YouTube channel. My name is Bart, and today we'll be doing another lap guide in the FIF 4 car at the Hungaroring. Let's get to the hot lap. Okay, so we're going down the main straight at the Hungaroring here. Bit of a long wait till turn one. Easily the best overtaking opportunity in the track with kind of a wide hairpin that sets up some runs into turn two and just the slipstream effect in this car as well. You'll get quite a nice pull along the straight. So important to get a good exit out of the last corner. Braking for turn one. Very late on the brakes here. Quite a tricky, I'd say, trickier than you think, considering it just seems like your standard kind of hairpin. But just the shape of the corner and a few little things that we'll get to in a second, I think make it a bit harder. So braking for turn one, you got this 100-meter board, you've got the safety car line, and you've got the 50-meter board. Well, there's pretty good references there to kind of gauge where you're braking. You can see on this lap, I brake at this line here. This is pretty on the limit. But yeah, important to be pretty on the edge of your braking here for lap time. Braking very efficiently. We can hit the brakes super hard here. You can see about 90-95% brake pressure in a straight line. Down to second gear. And then bleed out very quickly when we start turning in with this car. Super important. Try and get the car onto this curb. Not absolutely essential, but ideally would like to get the right wheels onto these red and white. Bit of curving here just to help rotate the car. More curve than this is a bit unnecessary, and you can probably go a little bit further. So as we're not too wide, if we're out here, then we kind of miss out on this camber, and we're just taking extra distance as well. So in second gear now, quite an aggressive throttle pickup, trying to force ourselves out wide here. Very tricky, the track limits on this, so you've got to have your right tire still on the red and white curb here. Really easy to run out too wide. If you find yourself running out too wide on the exit with the way it tightens up, I'd recommend just trying to push the braking a little bit more or roll a little bit more speed into the apex as well. Being quite like a bowl-shaped hairpin, we can roll a bit of speed into that cambered phase of the corner, and that will delay your throttle pickup a bit and should just help you with not running out on exit and picking up a load of off tracks. So as soon as you've got the car going in a straight line, get over to the right-hand side, shorten the distance, and prepare the car for turn two. This left-hander, very tricky corner. Very easy to spin here, especially if you don't know the track or the car very well. My recommendation is brake just on the earlier side in general. You always feel like you're braking too early here, and that's just kind of how it is with this downhill corner. And make sure you brake fairly efficiently at the start as well. Don't worry about, yes, you're going to lock up later on the corner if you're braking too late. But at the start of the braking phase here, you can see on this lap I'm braking next to, there's a Pirelli board on my right. But the start of where this curbing is. Really important here to hit the brakes fairly hard to get your straight line efficient braking done, so we got the car slowed down before we get into this downhill off camber part of the corner. You can see pretty hard on the brakes here, 60-70% brake pressure, then bleeding off down to third gear. Don't be in too early, then you kind of just narrow off the corner for yourself and you go down the hill, you turn in like that and you just push down the hill. And then maybe if you pick up the throttle a bit early, you'll hit a bump halfway through and kind of have an oversteer moment. So it's good here just to be a little bit slower in, prepare the car, wait to turn in, roll the speed in here. You can see I'm just kind of feathering the brake. This is all just trying to, yes, I am actually still trying to slow the car down just because of the downhill nature of this corner and how long it is on the entry, but also just trying to keep the car rotating, keeping weight on the nose, keeping the front of the car pitched, and just having that little bit of brake, trailing a tiny bit of brake into the corner will help it rotate. Like I said, you can't really have much. So combine when you're turning and braking at the same time in this car, it doesn't really work. But you can have just a tiny bit of brake on as we're still turning into the corner, but not much. You have to go from a lot in a straight line to very little when we're turning. So you can see there I get a little bit of over-rotation probably from that bit of trail braking I did. But this allows us to now pick up the throttle. We know we've got the car rotated. Can I keep it on the edge of the tyre there? Just meeting the white line on the exit. You can use this curbing. The problem is if you're really out on the edge of this curbing, quite often it just tightens up this next right a bit. And even though it's still flat, it's important not to make this next right-hander too much of a turn. If you make it too much of a turn, then it kind of kills your exit a bit up the hill with the way this car is. If you're scrubbing the front like that, you've got lock on it, even though it's flat out. So you can see here I'm able to open up the corner by about a good car width or so before I turn here. I always like to take this curve. It just helps rotate the car a bit and kind of shortens the distance. Then we can run here. So we are right tyres, same as turn one. Track limits are pretty consistent here generally on the exits. Right tyres on the red and white curb in this case. But we were able just to open up the corner enough to be smooth there. Up into fifth, braking for this blind uphill left. Really fun corner this. I like to brake on this curb. Can upset the car a little bit because we're not braking that hard in this car. I think it's perfectly fine just to try and open up as much of the track as possible for this high speed left. So really soft brake. The softer you can brake here, the faster you'll be pretty much, you know? So it's all about just carrying momentum and again, what's a low powered car. Hooking the car up on this left curb, you can see I take quite a lot of curb here. I'm not quite bottoming out over the middle of it, but I am taking the left tires on the higher part of the curb. That will help rotate the car. And there's a bit of an aggressive landing. Important here, again, technically it's legal just to have your left tires on the red and white, but there's quite a steep drop off here over this second curb. If you drop your right tires there or you put the middle of the car on the second curb, it really not only will just kind of lose you time, but it drags you wide and it's very, very hard to get back to the left. So you can gain a bit of time here pushing this exit more, but I'd recommend don't run any more than having your right tires on this second curb. Don't run any more than this because you just end up not being able to prepare the next right-hander where you'll lose more time than what you'll gain through his quick left. So with that in mind, really fast, we've got to reposition here. Really fast because we can't afford to brake late and have too late an apex for this next right-hander coming up. So over to the left-hand side of the track, you can see I almost perfectly make it onto the white line. It's always going to be one of those things here. How much can you push that left and still make it back as far as possible to the left-hand side of the track? So yeah, braking down to third gear. It'll be quite a late downshift. Just you want to delay that rotation, but not kill the speed too much. It's quite a long corner. It's not a very hard brake for me, just soft brake, just to try and slow the car, prepare the platform to be able to pick up the throttle pedal fairly early in the corner. So you can see just meeting the inside curb. Don't get on the higher curb on the inside, ideally. You can see I just clip it there. You don't really want to be riding it around, especially early on in the corner. It'll kind of upset the car on exit when you get on throttle. But just meeting the inside there. As you're meeting the inside, you should be able to pick up throttle. The car should grip. And then you'll pick up a little bit of understeer on exit, but that's okay. The track limits here are a bit harsher for some reason, so watch out in this corner. You've got to have your right wheels pretty much on the white line here. Any more than that and you'll get an off track. Pretty easy to do. So braking now down to third gear. This chicane. Again, a bit like that quick left. The curb's not great to be braking on, but because we're not braking that hard in this car or for very long, and also I really rate just the extra distance you can get on the entry, I would recommend using it. So braking, you see fairly heavily initially here. Again, using that straight line braking. And down to third, very quickly bleeding off the brakes third. Get the car positioned nicely. If you have your tyres on the white line like this, you won't have any problems with track limits. So that's all good. Take much more curb than this and you will upset the car. You can hear it here. It's kind of struggling just a little bit to put the power down as well. That's pretty normal. But the earlier you can pick up throttle there, just as you get over that curb, will really help your run in this next section. You can see how I'm just clipping this sausage. I don't really want to run the middle of the car over this section here. So trying to just run the left wheels over the high part of the curb. We don't really need to either because of the angle we opened up in the first part, and using that extra bit of the curb and having that late turn-in for the right-hander really helps open up this left. And it means that we can be full throttle all the way through the left-hander, which is the aim, and safely use all this track without smashing the sausage curb. So using all this bit of runoff on the right-hand side, preparing the car, really soft brake here. You want to meet the inside of the curb late. If you meet it too early, you'll end up running, kind of upsetting the rhythm for this section by running out too wide too early in this left-hander. Don't treat it like the exit is the exit, that makes sense. So don't treat it like the track is that wide. Treat it like the track's only half the width of what it actually is. You can't be affording to run wide out of this left-hander. So really important here to meet the curve fairly late round here. So a soft little brake, pick up the throttle as you get it rotate on the curb. Will work quite nicely. Again, try and get back to the left-hand side, similar to that left-right section we had earlier. Down to third gear here, no brakes necessary. I find with the fixed setup, you might not need this on potentially better conditions or in a better setup, but in the fixed setup, it's really important to be changing down to third just for the extra rotation here and just the extra pull out of the corner. Down to third gear, using the red and white curving. Up to fourth now on the exit. You shouldn't really be right on the limit of this right-hander. If you are, then you kind of scrub the wheel a lot and it'll be a lot of work to get back for the left-hander. Should be nice and smooth like this. Left-hand tyres just staying on the white line. No reason to ride the curb. Getting back to position nicely for this right. See, in this scenario, I don't like using this curb because it can potentially upset us on entry. It's also a lot more work for us to do, and we'll end up... Well, if we try and make that left curb and use it to brake on, we'll almost invariably end up turning in too late for this right-hander. We want to be in early, as we'll see in a sec. So, fourth gear, really soft brake, just to help rotate the car. Barely any brake pressure, you can see here on the bottom left. Could do it with a lift. It's borderline. Again, depends. I found the fixed setup, a little bit of brake is more consistent, helps. And remember, in this car, it's not just about carrying speed. We don't want to be scrubbing the wheel as well. So it just helps with getting the car rotated in a way where you can pick up the throttle and not be kind of holding all this lock on and just going straight on and stalling the car on the exit. So use all this curb. This curb is fantastic for turning the car. Please get on it as much as possible. That should allow you to go to full throttle and run out on exit. Again, a bit like the exit of that quick left that had a very similar curbing. In this case, we don't have to get back to the other side of the track, but I find if you use a bit more curb than this, it kind of just slows the car, stalls the car a little bit. So please be careful. You can run more than this and still be legal. It just potentially hurts your exit a bit with bottoming and things like that. So nicely just running the left wheels on the second curb. Lining ourselves up with the white line now. Once again, not using the curving here. I just think it's too late to reposition the car onto the left curb and then turn right. So braking in a straight line, down to third gear. Really important here, you can smash the brake pedal, okay? It's not a super long braking zone, but you can really, really attack the brakes. I think the main problem here, and I found this myself, is just not slowing the car down enough initially. And then what happens is you just roll too much speed and you get a lot of understeer as you turn into the corner. So important here, we really maximize the braking. You see I'm maintaining a lot of brake pressure now. Down to third gear, then very quickly bleed out. Very easy to lock up into here, so very quickly bleed out the brakes. Early throttle pick up once again, using the curb to help rotate the car. This should allow you to go to full throttle. Using all the exit, same rules as turn one exit, and some of the other corners, just right the inside tires on the red and white curb. And then another corner where we've got to really quickly reposition. It's not straight either, so don't think, oh, I need to be in line with the white line, but pointing. It's very easy here to get to the edge of the track, but be pointing in this direction. Get over early, right? Get over early to this right-hand side, so then you can actually position with the white line and turn into the corner properly. Because if you're lazy here, you won't be facing the right way into the corner. It makes a really big difference for this next left-hander, and then that in turn has an effect for the next right-hander, which leads onto the main straight. Big part of this track, or the preparation, the positioning. So using all the track on the right-hand side, all the curbing, then braking. Kind of pointed the car in a little bit here. We're pointing it roughly at the Rolex board on the main straight towards these posts here. But more than anything, what I'm aiming to do is meet the inside curb quite far around, about here. You'll see in a sec. So we don't want to meet too early. It's one of the higher curbs, a raised curb, a bit like I think it's turn 6, the right-hander, early on in the lap. We don't really want to be sitting on that curb, because if you go on throttle, it won't really give you a good exit, and it can also upset the car and just slows you down a bit, throws you off the inside of the track. So we want to get as close to the inside curb without hitting it. Important not to be in too tight too early, but also very easy here to push the entry too much in trying to delay when we reach the inside, and as a result, just completely miss the corner or lock up, things like that. So I get it's tricky here. So get over to the right-hand side, use all the track. First thing we can do is really important, that early positioning. Then get the car as straight as possible on the brakes. You can see it's not perfectly straight, my steering wheel right now, if you look at the bottom left. Not perfectly straight, but I've worked as hard as I can. I've actually taken some lock off from here to here. Just a little bit, a few degrees, but every degree matters. Very, very hard on the brakes. Not full brake pressure, but maybe 70%, for what is not a very long brake zone. Just trying as hard as I can to be, as I said, that really straight line, efficient braking, super important in this corner, because it's only a very short braking phase. We had to really make the most of it before we start turning in. So quick brake, high pressure, bleed out nicely so we're not sustaining all the steering lock, and really smooth on the wheel. Don't be aggressive here. This is where you get caught out a lot if you go karting style on the entry. So please don't hack your way into this corner. Try and be smooth here. Just keeping a little bit of brake pressure on just to keep the weight on the nose, just to keep the car rotating. And you can see we meet the white line late. This is exactly what we want to do. Really nice, smooth throttle pickup. Now you can see I don't quite reach full throttle. I'm kind of forced to pick up the throttle here, a bit awkward. I'm forced to pick up the throttle because if I don't, I end up on the inside curb, and then that kind of hurts us. And I'm also trying to pick up the speed a bit as well. But I can't really go to full throttle, because if I go full throttle, I'll lose the rear or end up too wide on the exit. So a bit tricky here. Not ideal, but it's that kind of corner where it's almost too long to drive perfectly. So you're going to have some laps where it's a bit awkward on the brakes on the throttle. So please keep that in mind. On throttle here, just about as you can see, I'm just able to open up the lock on the exit. Now I can get full throttle. Get over. You can, again, be more aggressive on the track limits, same as the previous corner. But you see, I'll only just make it over to the left-hand side of the track. And that's why I didn't want to go full throttle any earlier, was because, yes, I could have been wider for that left, but it would have hurt us for this next entry here, which we'll see. So you only just make it over to the left-hand side, really, in time. Now I'm on the white line. Now I can turn the car into the right. See, still turning in full throttle. So I think that's something people don't often do. They think, okay, I'm going to brake on the white line, and then they kind of just miss the corner. They're too late to get to the left, or they just never make it back to the left. They just turn straight right, and then they just can't understeer like that. So there's a lot of things that can go wrong here. First thing, like I said, position early. Don't make sure you're not going too wide out of the previous corner. Next part of it is you can see I'm trying to position the car a bit like the previous corner, but more so in this case. I want to do some rotation before I actually hit the brake pedal. No point me pointing that way. There's not really any reason. The grip's in tight, and it's a long corner. I want to roll the speed and roll the momentum in this low-powered single-seater. So you can see braking now, pointing at the Pirelli board at that point, but really soft brake. Really soft brake. We don't need to slow the car down that much in this car. Oh, sorry. But yeah, we don't need to slow it down that much for this corner. Down to third gear. Not super aggressive on the steering. Again, smooth. Just allowing the car to rotate. Similar to the previous corner, just trying to meet the inside white line quite late round. Don't want to smash the inside curb. Now we go to full throttle. Now we're able to just maintain the lock, smooth the steering, use all the exit, and that is the end of our lap at the Hungaroring. Okay, so that takes us to the end of the video. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section below. And you can also check out the Coach Dave Academy Discord in the video description. I've been Bart, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.